The set of questions in this section will be used to determine the labor force status for Jamaicans 14 years and older. That is, whether they're employed, unemployed, or outside the labor force. According to the International Labour Organization (ILO), persons are classified as employed if they work for at least 1 hour during the reference period. For this census, the reference period is 1 week from Sunday, September 4, 2022 to Saturday, September 10, 2022. This question is used to identify persons who worked for someone else in exchange for remuneration in cash or kind, such as salary, wage, tips, commissions, food, or housing. This includes persons who worked in the reference week in any paid job, for example, as an employee or paid apprentice, including casual, informal, and part-time employees. Also included are persons who were temporarily away from work due to work travel duties or job training. So, for example, if the respondent was in New York working on behalf of their company during the reference week, then their answer should be recorded as yes here. Please note you should only ask the next question in this box if the response is no to the current question. Worked for profit at least 1 hour in the reference week. This question is used to identify persons who worked in their business with the intention to earn an income in the form of profits in cash or kind. This can include someone who owns a major business with several employees or even a shopkeeper. Domestic work is defined for statistical purposes as all work performed in or for a household or households to provide services mainly for consumption by household members. Include here domestic workers, commonly referred to as helpers, gardeners working in the household, and nannies. Many of the persons you will interview will use the term working to mean having a regular job. He or she may have been doing all sorts of odd jobs during the reference week. Additionally, when some people think about work, they think about certain kinds of jobs associated with an office or business place, and not necessarily household helpers, gardeners, or persons who sell products like phone cards, bottled water, or peanuts at the traffic light. Worked as unpaid family member captures persons who worked without receiving pay in a family-run business or helped a family member with tasks related to their paid job. These persons are considered economically active irrespective of whether they are unpaid, indirectly paid, or not regularly paid. There are likely to be persons employed during the reference week but not physically at the job for some reason. This question is used to identify those persons who were temporarily absent from a paid job or business during the reference period and who were expected to return to that same job or business. These persons would have likely said no to the previous set of questions about working during the reference week. Persons may be absent due to short illnesses, personal leave, special working time arrangements such as shift work, maternity or paternity leave, bad weather, or labor dispute. Note, however, that persons absent from work because they were on work travel duties or job training should be considered employed at work in the reference week and should therefore have a yes to one of the questions here. Let us look more closely at some of the questions used in a farmer's scenario.
Do you do any work for someone else for wage, salary, commission, or any payment in kind, even if only for 1 hour?
No.
Do you run or do any kind of business or activity to generate income, big or small, for yourself or with one or more partners, even if only for 1 hour?
No, not right now.
Do you do any work as a domestic worker or gardener for wage, salary, or any payment in kind, even if only for 1 hour?
No, not those type of work.
Do you do any odd jobs or hustling for pay, even if only for 1 hour?
No, no hustling right now.
Do you do any kind of farming, catch fish, wild animals, or other food to generate income, even if only for 1 hour?
Yes, I farm stuff and sell them.
Since the respondent answered yes to this question, the census taker should then ask,
thinking about the products from farming, rearing animals, or fishing you worked on, are they intended for sale, family use, or both?
These questions are used to identify whether work done in farming or rearing animals, fishing, or another type of activity should be recognized as employment or own use production work. that is, just farming for self or family. Consider here the intention for all goods produced together during the reference week. Please ask the respondent to indicate the main use if produced for sale and own use.
Mostly sale, we eat some, but the majority we sell.
Please note also that the question asks about intended use. This is because although the crop might not be ready for harvesting or were not sold during the reference week, the person, if engaged in farming activities during the reference week to cultivate the crops, raising animals or fishing, should be captured here. All persons who were employed and at work or had a job but was not at work during the reference week as an employee, employer, or self-employed person running their own business, hustling as a domestic worker or gardener, or doing farming, fishing, or raising animals, would then move on to providing information about their jobs. Let us use another scenario to explore those questions further. Keep in mind that all the questions are related to the main job that was done during the reference week. By main job, we mean whichever job they spent the most time doing. This is important because persons could have changed jobs between the reference week and the interview date.
What is your job title?
Well, I do a couple of jobs still. Do some work on the side with my cousin, but my main job is as a supervisor.
Remember, this section is about the main job during the reference week, so only one response should be recorded here. The census taker would need to probe here to get at the specific job title. For the questions in this section, details are important, so the census taker might need to probe to ask the respondent to give a more specific response.
Can you say what type of supervisor?
A garage supervisor at an auto mechanic shop.
Okay, thanks. What is the main kind of activity that is carried out at your place of work?
Well, as I say, it's an auto mechanic shop, so we fix cars, fix trucks, all kind of vehicles.
What are the main product or service provided by your place of work?
All right. As I say, it's a mechanic shop, so we fix cars, we fix SUVs, trucks, we change engine, repair tire, sell spare parts, sell lubricants, engine oil, all of them things.
Remember, this section is about the main service or product provided during the reference week, so only one response should be recorded here. The main activity and the main product or service relates to the core of what the business does. Details and specific information is required here to assist with coding after data collection to classify persons within a particular occupation and industry.
What is your employment status in your main job?
What do you mean by that? Tell us if he's a supervisor already.
This section might require some probing to confirm how the respondent is paid, especially to determine whether they are paid employees or self-employed. A person who gets a short-term contract with a company, say for 6 months, and is a salaried employee with specific working hours is different from a person who is a freelancer and paid to provide a service or product and charges rates based on the time spent or the project. The census taker must determine whether the person is working for themselves or a company.
All right, let me explain a little further by going through the possible responses on the questionnaire.
Okay.
Paid employees. This is a person who is working for someone else for pay. This is typically for wage or salary, but may also be a commission from sales or in kind, such as with products, housing, and meals. It includes formal and informal employees with permanent, fixed term, casual, temporary contracts or agreements, whether written or verbal, paid apprentice or intern. This is a person who holds a paid job on a temporary basis to acquire workplace experience or skills. It includes formal and informal paid apprentices, interns, trainees, etc. Employer. An employer is an individual or an organization in government, private, non-profit, or business sector that hires and pays people for their work. Employers may hire one or more persons on a formal or informal basis for long or short durations, including casual employees. Unpaid worker or unpaid family worker. This is a person who helps without receiving direct pay in the business activity of a household member or a family member living elsewhere. Own account worker. This is a person who works on his or her own account without hiring employees on a regular basis. Persons working on their own account may have business partners or help from family members. This includes any person who operates a farm or a business for profit who does not employ any paid help. If the farm or business operator has the help of unpaid workers, then he or she should still be classified as own account worker. However, if he or she had only paid or both paid and unpaid help, he should be classified as employer.
Okay, I get what you're saying now. Alright, so I would be a paid employee then. Yeah, come work for the big boss.
Which of the following best describes your place of employment? Listen carefully and then state your answer. In government or public company. This includes persons working in any ministry or department of government or any parish council, statutory body, board, or agency of government. It includes all government institutions, whether at national, regional, or local level, and state-owned enterprises, that is, ownership of 50% or more by the state. This includes Petrojam, National Water Commission, known as NWC. In a private business or farm. It includes private farms producing mainly for the market and all other private or personal businesses that are not publicly owned, whether formal or informal. JPS is an entity that the government of Jamaica jointly owns 20% of. As such, persons working for the Light and Power Company would be coded here. In a non-profit organization. This includes all non-profit institutions such as NGO, charities, religious institutions that provide their services or products to households or the community at large. It excludes NGOs controlled by the government. In a household or as a domestic worker, it includes private households as employers of domestic workers only. International institution includes public institutions but owned by foreign or international institutions such as foreign embassies, multilateral agencies, for example, the United Nations, etc.
This can sometimes be confused with the physical location where persons work. For example, although rare, nurses, midwives, or community aides can make home visits to patients. If these persons are attached to a government hospital, that should be the census taker's response on the questionnaire.
Okay. Alright, so the business we work for is definitely a private business.
What is your weekly, monthly, or annual income from all employment? That is the money you make from all your jobs.
Okay. When you say all my jobs, I mean my main job as a supervisor plus things I'm going to do on the side?
Yes.
Unlike the previous questions, which focused on the main job, the question about income includes all jobs. Remember, people are sometimes very uncomfortable when answering questions of this nature. So, census takers must ensure that the interview is done in private and reassure the respondents that the information will be kept confidential.
Alright, from the main job, I think I bring home about $200,000 per month before tax. That's at the garage. And then when you add up the side jobs, then that come up to about 80,000 per month.
Thanks for that information, Mr. Gray.
Now, let us work through another scenario where the person was not employed during the reference week. If the respondent answers no to questions 4.1a to F, that is, they were not employed to anyone, they were not running their own business, they were not doing domestic work or gardening, not temporarily absent from a job, then the census taker should move on to the questions in section 4.2. These questions are asked to determine whether the respondent did anything to find a job or was available for work in the last month.
Even though you did not work during the week September 4 to 10, 2022, did you have a paid job or a business?
Paid job or business? No.
Since the respondent answered no to all questions at the beginning of this section, the census taker will move on to ask whether the respondent did anything to find a job or was available for work in the last month.
During the period, did you do anything to find a paid job?
Yes, I remember searching the website. I remember applying for different agencies, and I remember looking through the Sunday Gleaner, recruiting for jobs, and also I have applied for call centers as well.
This question is used to determine whether the respondent was actively searching for employment in a 1-month period. It doesn't matter the amount of time spent searching for a job, the type of job, or the duration of the job. If during an interview you learn that an individual who is looking for work was doing some odd job or hustling during the reference week, go back and review the responses to the earlier set of questions in section 4.1. This is because work takes precedence over all other activity, even if only for an hour. An individual who worked just for an hour doing any job or activity for pay or profit must have a yes at one of the categories in question 4.1, even if they do not like the job, did it occasionally, and is trying to find another job.
Did you try to start a business? So did you get a business loan, bought some goods to resell, bought some ingredients to make a product to sell, or anything like that?
Start a business? Well, I know that I tried to get a loan from one of those loan places because I love sewing. So I tried getting a loan to buy a sewing machine so that I could do some sewing.
The census taker may be required to probe to find out what steps the respondent may have taken during the reference period to make the business operational. Having a business idea is good, but what is required here are actual steps taken to make the business ready to produce goods or services.
If it depended on you, could you have started working during the week September 4 to 10, 2022?
No, later than that.
If a job was available during the week September 4 to 10, 2022,
Next 2 weeks, yes, that would be better.
which of the following best describes what you're mainly doing at present? 1. Taking care of the home or family. This includes cleaning, cooking, caring for family or household members. 2. In studies, training. This captures formal and non-formal education or training programs. 3. Doing an unpaid apprenticeship, internship, traineeship, or other similar programs. 4. In agriculture, fishing for family use. This refers to persons working in their own family or farming or fishing activities, producing mainly for final consumption by the household or family. 5. Doing unpaid, voluntary, community, charity work refers to persons willingly working without pay for the benefit of others outside their family. This includes volunteering for organizations, community volunteering, volunteering directly to help neighbors, strangers, the environment, etc.
All right, so I'd say the first one, as it relates to taking care of family, because I'm a family person. So yeah, the first one, cooking, cleaning for family.
Have you ever worked?
No.
This question should be posed to persons who are not currently employed. The question seeks to establish if the respondent has ever worked in their life. However, if the respondent has worked in the past, they would be asked information about the main tasks or duties, job title, main kind of business activity in the previous job. Note that if the person who is currently unemployed had several jobs prior, they should only be asked about the last or most recent job.